The situation at United Earth Defense Force headquarters was grim. Admiral Lee stood at the massive window overlooking the sprawling city below, his weathered face reflecting in the glass as he read through the latest battle reports. His hands trembled slightly as he swiped through the holographic displays. Another human colony had fallen to the Krax Empire. "Sir, the casualty reports from New Eden are in," his aide whispered, placing a data tablet on the desk. The Admiral's shoulders tensed as he picked it up. 20,000 civilians hadn't made it to the evacuation ships. The Krax had shown no mercy, just like every other time. 3 years of war had pushed humanity to its absolute limit. The Krax warships, with their superior shields and weapons, had steamrolled through humanity's best defenses like they were made of paper. Every victory humanity managed to scrape together came at a terrible cost, while the alien empire seemed to have endless ships and soldiers to throw at them. The Admiral walked through the quiet corridors of the headquarters, his footsteps echoing off the metal walls. The few staff members he passed had dark circles under their eyes and slumped shoulders. Everyone knew they were losing this war, but what they didn't know was that humanity had one last card to play. Deep underground, behind layers of security that would make Fort Knox look like a cookie jar, the Security Council had gathered for an emergency meeting. The room fell silent as Admiral Lee entered, all eyes turning to him. These weren't just military leaders, they were the last hope of humanity. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady despite his exhaustion, "I know we're all aware of how dire our situation is. The Krax have taken 3 more colony worlds this month alone. Our conventional forces," he paused, swallowing hard, "they're not enough. They never were." The room remained deadly quiet as he walked to the center of the table and placed a small device down. With a click, a hologram sprang to life, showing the sleek, almost predatory lines of a ship unlike anything humanity had built before. "This," he said, watching their eyes widen, "is Project Nova. We've kept it hidden from everyone, even our own people, because we couldn't risk the Krax finding out. But now it's ready." The council members leaned forward as he explained how their best scientists and engineers had been working in secret, studying captured Krax technology and combining it with radical new human innovations. The Nova-class battleship wasn't just another warship, it was humanity's masterpiece. "The hull," he continued, zooming in on specific sections of the hologram, "is lined with crystals we engineered based on Krax energy systems. But we've done something they never managed. We found a way to channel dark energy through the entire structure." One of the council members, an older woman with steel-gray hair, spoke up. "Dark energy. The same force that's expanding the universe. That's impossible." Admiral Lee allowed himself a small smile. 6 months ago, I would have agreed with you. But we did it. And when this ship powers up, it'll have more energy at its disposal than an entire Krax battle fleet." He could see hope beginning to dawn in their eyes, something he hadn't seen in far too long. But then the question started. Was it safe? Had it been tested? What if it didn't work? What if the Krax had something even better hidden away? "I won't lie to you," the Admiral said, turning off the hologram. "This is a gamble. The biggest gamble in human history. But right now, we're losing this war. In 6 months, we'll be extinct. Project Nova isn't just our best chance. It's our only chance." The council chamber erupted in heated discussion, but Admiral Lee knew they'd approve the launch. They had to. As he watched them debate, his hand touched the small medal in his pocket, his brother's medal, recovered from the wreckage of his ship after the Krax destroyed it. "We're almost ready," he whispered. "Just hold on a little longer." The underground lab hummed with energy as Admiral Lee made his way through layers of security checkpoints. Each door required different clearances. Fingerprints, retinal scans, voice recognition. The precautions might have seemed excessive once, but not anymore. Not with what they were protecting down here. "Admiral, you're early," said Professor Wang, looking up from his workstation. The chief engineer's desk was cluttered with holographic displays showing complex equations and ship schematics. Coffee cups littered every free space, telling the story of countless sleepless nights. "Show me where we are with the systems," the Admiral said, pulling up a chair. Dark circles under his eyes matched the engineers. Neither man had slept properly in days. Professor Wang nodded and swept his hand through the air, bringing up a 3D model of the Nova-class battleship. "The basic principle is simple," he began, though they both knew it was anything but. "We're not just building a bigger gun or a stronger shield. We're creating something that breaks all the rules." The hologram zoomed in on the ship's hull, revealing layers of crystalline structures embedded within the metal. "See these patterns? Each crystal is grown in zero gravity using materials we borrowed from captured Krax ships. But the real breakthrough wasn't copying their tech, it was understanding why they never took it further." The professor's eyes lit up as he explained, his hands moving animatedly. "The Krax use these crystals to store energy, but they treat them like batteries. We're using them as a nervous system." He pressed a button, and the hologram showed energy flows through the crystal networks. "When we power up the main reactor, it sends dark energy through every crystal simultaneously. The entire ship becomes one massive energy field." "And you're sure it won't tear itself apart?" Admiral Lee asked, remembering the early prototype tests that had ended in spectacular failures. Professor Wang's face grew serious. "The mathematical models are solid. We've run every simulation possible. The real question is whether the crew can handle it." He pulled up another display showing medical readouts. "Being inside an active dark energy field, it's not dangerous, but it feels strange. Like your whole body is buzzing." The Admiral stood and walked to the observation window, looking down at the massive hangar where hundreds of engineers and technicians swarmed around the nearly completed battleship. Its hull gleamed under the bright lights, the embedded crystals giving it an almost organic appearance. "Tell me about the weapons," he said quietly. They both knew this was the part that would matter most when they faced the Krax. "That's where it gets interesting," Professor Wang said, joining him at the window. "The main gun, we're calling it the Nova Cannon, doesn't fire traditional projectiles or energy beams. It creates a focused point of dark energy displacement. Anything caught in that point," he paused, searching for the right words, "it's like being caught between two sheets of reality being pulled apart." "Have we tested it?" "On unmanned targets, yes. The results were—" The professor shivered slightly, decisive. "One shot cut through shields, armor, everything. Clean through, like they weren't even there." Admiral Lee nodded slowly. "And the defensive capabilities?" "Even better. When the dark energy field is active, nothing can touch the ship. Missiles, energy weapons, even railgun shots, they all get absorbed or deflected. It's like trying to throw rocks at a waterfall." A young technician approached them, holding a tablet. "Sir, we've finished the latest crystal calibration tests. All systems are showing green." The Admiral took the tablet, scanning the results. "How long until it's ready for full power-up?" 3 days for final checks," Professor Wang answered. "Then we can start crew training." "But sir," he hesitated, "there's something else you should know." The Admiral looked up sharply. "What?" "The energy readings we're getting, they're off the charts. When this ship powers up, every sensor in the solar system will detect it. We won't be able to hide it anymore." Admiral Lee handed back the tablet, a grim smile crossing his face. "Good. Maybe it's time we stopped hiding. Maybe it's time we showed the Krax exactly what humanity is capable of." The orbital shipyards above Mars buzzed with activity as the final preparations for the Nova-class battleship continued. Through the massive observation window of the control center, the ship's sleek hull reflected the red planet's light, its crystalline patterns creating an almost ethereal glow. "System check complete on levels 3 through 7, a technician called out, his voice tight with nervous energy. "All readings nominal." Admiral Lee stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the organized chaos unfold. Hundreds of workers in spacesuits moved around the massive vessel like busy bees, making last-minute adjustments and running final checks. The ship had been named Prometheus, a fitting choice for humanity's greatest technological achievement. "Sir," a young lieutenant burst into the control room, her face pale. "Long-range sensors have picked up something. A Krax scout fleet just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what Krax scouts meant. They were always the first wave, testing defenses before the main fleet arrived. The Admiral's jaw tightened as he looked at the tactical display. 5 Krax vessels moving in their typical arrow formation. "How long until they reach Mars orbit?" he asked, though he already knew the answer wouldn't be good. At their current speed, less than 6 hours. Professor Wang stepped forward, his tablet displaying the Prometheus's completion status. We need at least 12 more hours for final systems integration. The power core stabilizers aren't fully calibrated yet. The Admiral watched the red dots representing the cracked ships slowly moving closer on the tactical display. Standard procedure would be to evacuate the shipyard, abandon the incomplete vessel, and hope enough people could escape before the cracks arrived. But they all knew that strategy had failed too many times before. "What's the completion percentage?" Admiral Lee asked, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. 89%, Professor Wang replied. "The main systems are operational, but we haven't run full power tests. We don't know how the crystal matrix will respond under real combat conditions." The Admiral turned to face the assembled crew. "Listen carefully. We're not running this time. Get every non-essential worker off the ship. I want a skeleton crew, volunteers only. We're launching now." Protests erupted immediately. "Sir, the safety protocols. Will get us all killed if we wait," the Admiral cut in. "The cracks aren't here by accident. Somehow they knew we were building something big. If we evacuate, they'll destroy everything we've worked for, and humanity will lose its last chance." He turned to the ship's appointed captain, a veteran officer who had survived 3 previous encounters with Crack's forces. "Captain, can you have your crew ready in 2 hours?" The captain straightened his uniform. "Yes, sir. We've been training for this. My people know what's at stake." "Good. Professor, what's the minimum time you need to get the power core online?" Professor Wang ran calculations on his tablet, his fingers flying over the surface. "If we skip the safety redundancy checks, maybe 3 hours. But sir, without those checks." "We don't have a choice," Admiral Lee said firmly. "Get it done in 2 hours. Captain, I want your crew aboard in 90 minutes. Everyone else, begin immediate evacuation procedures for non-essential personnel." The control room burst into action. Warning klaxons began to sound throughout the shipyard as thousands of workers started making their way to emergency shuttles. On the main viewer, the cracked ships continued their steady advance. Admiral Lee watched as the Prometheus's running lights began to power up, the crystalline patterns in its hull pulsing with a faint blue glow. They were about to find out if all their theories, all their work, would actually function in reality. The fate of humanity would rest on the shoulders of just 150 volunteers. A young engineer paused beside him on her way out. "Sir, do you really think this will work?" "The ship's not ready." The Admiral gave her a grim smile. "It has to work, because if it doesn't, there won't be anyone left to tell us we failed." Above them, the massive dock arms began to retract from the Prometheus's hull. In less than 2 hours, humanity would either make its final stand or unveil its greatest achievement. There would be no middle ground, no second chances. The time for testing and preparation was over. The bridge of the Prometheus hummed with nervous energy as the skeleton crew took their stations. The captain sat in the command chair, his fingers drumming lightly on the armrest as he watched the final launch preparations on the main screen. 150 volunteers, that's all they had to crew a ship designed for 1,000. Engineering reports power core initialization complete, called out the young lieutenant at the operations console. Her voice trembled slightly, but her hands moved steadily over the controls. Crystal matrix charging at 20% capacity. Through the bridge's panoramic viewport, Mars hummed like a massive red jewel against the black of space. The shipyard's emergency lights flashed as the last evacuation shuttles pulled away, carrying the thousands of workers who had spent years building humanity's greatest weapon. "Tactical, what's the status of the Crack's fleet?" the captain asked, keeping his voice calm despite the tension knotting his stomach. 5 ships, sir. 4 destroyers and 1 heavy cruiser. They've accelerated. New estimated arrival time is 90 minutes. Professor Wang's voice came over the comm from engineering. "Captain, we're about to begin the first power-up sequence. I should warn you, none of us know exactly how this will feel." The captain pressed a button on his chair. "All hands, brace for power-up. Remember your training and don't fight the sensation." A low vibration began to build through the ship's hull. On every deck, crew members felt a strange tingling sensation, like static electricity dancing across their skin. The crystalline patterns embedded in the walls began to pulse with a soft blue light. Crystal matrix at 40%, the engineering officer reported. Power flow is stable, 60%, 70%. Suddenly, the entire ship seemed to come alive. The blue glow intensified, flowing through the crystal networks like blood through veins. Every crew member gasped as the dark energy field activated for the first time. It felt like being underwater, but instead of pressure, there was a gentle buzzing sensation that filled every cell. Power core stable at 85%, Professor Wang announced, his voice filled with barely contained excitement. The crystal matrix is accepting the dark energy flow better than we predicted. All systems are green. Outside, the sight was spectacular. The Prometheus's hull now gleamed with brilliant blue energy, creating an ethereal halo that lit up the space around the ship. The dock arms fully retracted, leaving the vessel floating free for the first time. "Sir," the sensor officer called out urgently. "The Krax fleet just changed course. They're heading straight for us. They must have detected our power signature." The captain straightened in his chair. This was it. No more time for tests or calibrations. "Helm, take us out. Nice and easy. Let's see what this ship can really do." The Prometheus's engines flared to life, their usual blue exhaust now tinged with the same ethereal glow as the hull. The massive ship moved with surprising grace, sliding away from the shipyard with precision that seemed impossible for a vessel its size. "Crystal matrix holding steady at 90%, reported engineering. "All weapon systems online. The Nova cannon is charged and ready." As they cleared Mars orbit, the tactical display updated with the approaching Krax vessels. Their energy signatures pulsed angry red against the black backdrop of space, like wolves closing in on prey. But this time, the prey was ready to fight back. "Message from Fleet Command," the communications officer announced. "Admiral Lee says, show them what humanity can do." The captain allowed himself a small smile as he looked at his crew, engineers, tactical officers, and technicians, all volunteers, all ready to risk everything on this one chance. The strange sensation of the dark energy field had already become familiar, almost comfortable, like the ship itself was alive and protecting them. "Plot an intercept course with the Krax fleet," he ordered. "Let's introduce them to the next generation of human engineering." The Prometheus turned gracefully toward its approaching enemies, its hull blazing with power that defied the laws of physics as humanity had once understood them. In less than an hour, they would either change the course of the war or become another tragic footnote in history. Either way, the Krax were about to learn that humanity was done running. The space between Mars and the asteroid belt became eerily quiet as the Prometheus approached the incoming Krax fleet. The ship's dark energy field pulsed with steady blue light, casting strange shadows across the bridge crew's faces as they watched their enemies grow larger on the main view screen. "Krax fleet holding position at 1,000,000 kilometers, the tactical officer reported. "They've deployed their weapons arrays but haven't powered up their main guns." There was a pause. "Sir, they're scanning us." The captain nodded slowly. Of course they were scanning. They'd never seen anything like the Prometheus before. The ship's dark energy signature must be lighting up their sensors like a supernova. "Let them look," he said calmly. "Professor, how's our power core holding up?" Steady at 92%, Professor Wang's voice came back over the comm. "The crystal matrix is performing better than we hoped. We could push it higher if needed." The massive Krax vessels loomed ahead, their angular, predatory shapes a stark contrast to the Prometheus's sleek design. Their hulls were scarred from countless battles they'd always won. Until now, hopefully. "Sir, we're being hailed," the communications officer announced, surprise evident in her voice. "It's the Krax flagship. Put it through." The view screen flickered, and everyone on the bridge got their first real look at a Krax commander. The alien's scaled face and multiple eyes were intimidating, but there was something in its expression that none of them had ever seen before when dealing with the Krax: uncertainty. The translator kicked in as the Krax commander spoke. "Unknown vessel, you will power down your systems and surrender immediately. Your energy signature exceeds authorized levels for non-Krax ships. Compliance is mandatory." The captain stood from his chair, facing the screen. "This is the UES Prometheus. We don't take orders from you anymore. You are in human space. You will withdraw your forces immediately, or we will be forced to demonstrate our new capabilities." The Crack's commander's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Your species lacks the technology to threaten our fleet. This is your final warning. Power down or be destroyed." "Tactical, what's their weapons status?" the captain asked without taking his eyes off the screen. "They're charging their main guns, sir. Antimatter torpedo tubes are also active." The captain's voice remained steady. "This is your last chance. Withdraw now." The Crack's commander's response was to cut the transmission. Seconds later, the space between the ships lit up as dozens of antimatter torpedoes streaked toward the Prometheus. Impacts in 5 seconds. The tactical officer shouted, "Should I raise conventional shields?" "No," the captain said firmly. "Let our dark energy field handle it. Everyone brace for impact." The crew held their breath as the torpedoes reached them. In previous battles, even one of these weapons could cripple a human capital ship. But when they hit the Prometheus's energy field, something extraordinary happened. The torpedoes simply vanished. Their energy was absorbed into the blue field surrounding the ship, making it pulse slightly brighter for a moment. There was no damage, no shockwave, not even a tremor through the hull. "All torpedoes neutralized," Tactical reported, unable to keep the awe from their voice. "No damage. Crystal Matrix actually gained 0.3% power from the absorbed energy." The Crack's ships hung motionless for a moment, their sensors undoubtedly trying to process what they'd just witnessed. Then their main guns opened fire, sending devastating energy beams toward the Prometheus. Again, the dark energy field simply absorbed the attacks, growing slightly brighter with each hit. The bridge crew watched in amazement as weapons that had devastated their fleets now proved completely useless. "Sir," the tactical officer said quietly, "the Nova cannon is fully charged. Should we demonstrate?" The captain looked at the Crack's ships on the screen. They needed to show these aliens exactly what they were dealing with now. Target their smallest destroyer. Minimal power setting. We don't need to destroy them, just send a message. Nova cannon locked on target, sir. The captain took a deep breath. Everything they'd worked for came down to this moment. Fire. A beam of pure darkness lanced out from the Prometheus, so black it seemed to bend the starlight around it. It struck the Crack's destroyer's shields and passed through them like they weren't even there. Time seemed to freeze as the Nova cannon's beam struck the Crack's destroyer. For a split second, nothing happened, then reality itself appeared to bend. Where the beam touched the destroyer's hull, a perfect line of darkness appeared, as if someone had drawn a line through space itself. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the destroyer slowly split in two, the edges of the cut glowing with residual dark energy. There was no explosion, no dramatic fireball, just a clean, precise division of the mighty warship into perfectly equal halves. The cut edges glowed blue, looking almost like molten glass. "Target neutralized, sir," the tactical officer whispered, their voice shaking slightly. Even in simulations, they hadn't expected anything like this. Professor Wang's excited voice came over the comm. The energy displacement was exactly as calculated. The dark energy field created a temporary space-time discontinuity that simply ignored the physical matter in its path. On the main screen, the remaining Crack ships hung motionless, their weapons powered down. The two halves of their destroyed companions slowly drifted apart, still glowing with that otherworldly blue light. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're getting readings from the Crack ships. They're powering down their weapons. All of them." The captain remained standing, his expression firm. "Open a channel to their flagship." When the Crack's commander appeared on screen again, the change in its demeanor was striking. The alien's usual arrogant posture was gone, replaced by something that looked remarkably like respect, or fear. "Your weapon," the Crack's commander said, its translator struggling to convey the mix of emotions in its voice. "It should not be possible. The energy readings, even our most advanced science." "That was the lowest power setting," the captain replied calmly. "Would you like to see what it can do at full strength?" The sensor officer suddenly straightened in their chair. "Captain, I'm detecting quantum communications between the Crack ships and their home fleet. Massive data transfers. They're sending everything they just recorded." Professor Wang's voice crackled over the comm again. They're trying to understand how we did it, but they can't. We didn't just improve their technology, we completely reimagined it. They're seeing something their entire civilization believed was impossible. The Krex commander's multiple eyes focused intensely on the captain. By the ancient laws of warfare, I must ask, will you accept our surrender? A murmur of shock ran through the bridge crew. In all of recorded history, no one had ever heard of the Krex surrendering. They fought to the death, no matter the odds. Your surrender will be accepted on one condition, the captain replied. You will send word to your fleet and your high command. Tell them that humanity is no longer defenseless. Tell them what you witnessed here today. It will be done, the Krex commander said, and for the first time, there was a note of something like wonder in its translated voice. We have clearly underestimated your species' potential. This changes everything. The tactical officer kept their eyes glued to their displays. Sir, the Krex ships are powering down everything. Engines, weapons, even their long-range communications are shutting down. They're following full surrender protocols. The captain finally allowed himself to sit back in his chair, though he kept his expression neutral. Professor, how's our power core holding up? Steady as a rock, sir. The crystal matrix actually seems to be getting more stable the longer we run it. We could probably fire the Nova Cannon 100 more times without straining the system. Around the bridge, the crew tried to maintain their professional composure, but small smiles were breaking out everywhere. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. Not just fought off a Krex attack, they'd made them surrender. Send word to Admiral Lee, the captain ordered. Tell him the test was successful, and tell him to prepare for peace negotiations. I have a feeling the Krex are going to be very interested in talking now. The blue glow of the dark energy field seemed to pulse a bit brighter, as if the ship itself was celebrating their victory. In just a few minutes, they'd changed the course of the war, not through superior numbers or brute force, but through human ingenuity and determination. The bridge of the Prometheus had never felt so tense as when the Krex commander requested permission to come aboard. The surrendered alien ships floated silently nearby, their weapons still powered down, as the small Krex shuttle approached the human vessel. Security teams in position, reported the tactical officer. Honored guard is assembled in the main docking bay. The captain adjusted his uniform one last time. Remember everyone, this is the first time a Krex commander has ever willingly boarded a human ship. Let's make it count. Through the ship's internal cameras, the bridge crew watched as the Krex shuttle landed smoothly in the docking bay. The alien vessel looked almost primitive next to the gleaming, crystal-infused walls of the Prometheus. The Krex commander emerged with two advisors. Even through their sealed environmental suits, their body language showed clear unease as they passed through the ship's dark energy field. The aliens' multiple eyes darted around, taking in every detail of the advanced technology surrounding them. The energy field, one of the Krex advisors said, their translator making the words sound mechanical. We can feel it resonating with our neural patterns. How did you achieve this level of dark energy manipulation? Professor Wang, who had come up from engineering for this historic moment, smiled politely. That's just one of many questions we'll need to discuss during the peace negotiations. The Krex commander stepped forward, its posture formal. I have already transmitted all sensor data from our encounter to the High Command. The alien hesitated. They are having difficulty accepting the readings as accurate. Perhaps a live demonstration would help convince them, the captain suggested mildly. That will not be necessary, the commander replied quickly. The recorded destruction of our destroyer is evidence enough. The High Command has authorized me to open immediate diplomatic channels. The captain nodded. We're prepared to begin peace talks immediately. However, first we need your fleet's complete withdrawal from human space. Of course, the Krex commander agreed, far more readily than anyone had expected. But you must understand, this changes everything we thought we knew about your species. Professor Wang couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. What exactly do you mean? The Krex commander's secondary eyes blinked rapidly. For generations, we believed ourselves to be technologically superior to all other species. Our mastery of energy weapons and faster-than-light travel made us arrogant. But you, The alien gestured at the crystalline walls around them. You took our basic principles and evolved them into something we thought impossible. The tactical officer's console suddenly lit up. Sir, multiple quantum communication bursts detected. The Crack's fleet, the whole fleet, they're receiving new orders from their high command. Everyone held their breath as they waited for the translation. The Crack's commander's posture shifted to one of what appeared to be resignation. The High Command has ordered an immediate cessation of all hostile actions against human territories, the commander announced. They wish to discuss technology sharing agreements. A murmur of disbelief ran through the assembled humans. The Cracks, who had never shared their technology with anyone, were now asking to trade knowledge. There's more, the commander continued. They are also recalling all invasion forces from human colonies. The High Command believes. The aliens seemed almost embarrassed. They believe we have clearly underestimated humanity's potential for advancement. They wish to avoid further demonstrations of your capabilities. The captain exchanged glances with Professor Wang. In a single encounter, they had achieved what years of warfare couldn't. They had earned the Cracks' respect. Tell your High Command we look forward to peaceful negotiations, the captain replied diplomatically. We have much to discuss about the future of both our species. As the Cracks delegation prepared to return to their shuttle, the commander turned back one last time. One question, if I may. The name of your ship, Prometheus, what does it mean? The captain smiled. In human mythology, Prometheus was a being who gave humanity the gift of fire, technology that changed everything. It seemed fitting. The Cracks commander's translator was silent for a moment, processing. Yes, it finally said, very fitting indeed. You have certainly brought a new fire to the galaxy. The blue glow of the ship's dark energy field pulsed gently around them, a constant reminder that humanity had finally found its place among the stars, not through conquest, but through innovation and determination. News of the Prometheus's victory spread through human space like wildfire. Within hours of the Cracks' surrender, every colony and outpost was buzzing with excitement. People gathered in streets and squares, watching holographic broadcasts of the Prometheus's return to Earth, its hull still glowing with that mysterious blue energy. In the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, Admiral Lee stood before the Security Council, but this time the atmosphere couldn't have been more different from his previous visits. Gone were the grim faces and slumped shoulders. Every council member sat straight, eyes bright with hope. The Cracks High Command has issued a galaxy-wide order, the Admiral announced, his voice steady but unable to hide a hint of pride. All their forces are withdrawing from human territory, every single ship. Holographic displays showed Cracks warships departing from conquered colonies, their fearsome weapons powered down. On dozens of worlds, human refugees were returning to their homes, watching in amazement as their former conquerors simply left. But it's more than just a withdrawal, the Admiral continued. The demonstration of the Nova-class battleship has completely shattered their military doctrine. Their entire strategy was based on technological superiority. Now that we've proven we can not only match, but exceed their capabilities, they're being forced to completely rethink their approach to interstellar relations. Professor Wang stepped forward, pulling up technical data on the main display. What's even more interesting is their reaction to the dark energy manipulation technology. Their scientists have been poring over the sensor data from the encounter. They can't figure out how we did it. And we're certain they can't replicate it, one council member asked. The professor smiled. They're trying, but they're starting from the wrong direction. They see the crystals, they see the energy patterns, but they don't understand the fundamental breakthrough we made. It's like they're trying to understand a computer by studying electricity. They're missing the crucial steps in between. Another display showed construction yards around Mars, where work had already begun on 5 more Nova-class vessels. The success of the Prometheus had turned the program from humanity's last hope into its greatest triumph. The political implications are staggering, a senior diplomat added. We're receiving messages from every alien civilization in the sector. Species that previously wouldn't even acknowledge us are now requesting diplomatic relations. The balance of power has shifted completely. Admiral Lee nodded. But we need to be careful. This isn't about becoming the new Cracks empire. This is about ensuring lasting peace. The council chamber's doors opened, and an aide rushed in with a data tablet. "Sir, we're getting reports from the outer colonies. The cracks, they're not just withdrawing. They're helping rebuild what they destroyed. Their engineers are working alongside our construction teams." The admiral took the tablet, reading through the reports with raised eyebrows. "They're serious about this piece. They don't want to risk another demonstration of our capabilities." Professor Wang brought up new schematics on the display. "And that's not all. Their scientists have proposed joint research projects. They want to understand how we think, how we approach problems. They've realized that their rigid, hierarchical approach to technology might be holding them back." The council chamber filled with excited discussion as members debated the implications. Centuries of human scientific development, previously dismissed by the cracks as primitive, were being reevaluated. The same creativity and innovative thinking that had produced the Prometheus might hold the key to other breakthroughs. "The Nova-class ships were designed as weapons," Admiral Lee said quietly, "but they've become something more. They're proof that humanity deserves its place among the stars. Not because we can fight, but because we can think differently. See solutions where others see impossibilities." On the main screen, the Prometheus continued its victory orbit around Earth, its crystalline hull pulsing with that otherworldly blue glow. But now, that glow wasn't a symbol of war. It was a beacon of hope, signaling the dawn of a new era in human history. 3 months after the historic surrender of the Cracks fleet, the Prometheus floated majestically in Earth orbit, its crystal-infused hull gleaming in the sunlight. But today, the mighty warship wasn't preparing for battle, it was hosting the first interstellar peace conference. The ship's massive conference room, originally designed as a secondary command center, now held representatives from 12 different alien species, including the once mighty Cracks. The dark energy field that had proven so devastating in combat now served a different purpose, its gentle blue glow helping to regulate the various environmental needs of the diverse diplomatic delegation. Admiral Lee stood at the observation window, watching as diplomatic shuttles continued to arrive. "Did you ever think we'd see something like this?" he asked the captain, who stood beside him. "Honestly, I was just hoping we'd survive that first encounter," the captain replied with a slight smile. "But this is better than victory." Below them, in the ship's vast engineering sections, Professor Wang led a mixed team of human and alien scientists through the intricacies of dark energy manipulation. The Cracks engineers, once so confident in their technological superiority, now asked questions with genuine curiosity and respect. The breakthrough wasn't in the technology itself, the professor explained to his attentive audience. It was in how we approached the problem. Sometimes the biggest discoveries come from looking at old problems in new ways. In orbit around Mars, construction continued on the other Nova-class vessels, but their designs had already evolved, incorporating suggestions and improvements from the various alien engineering teams. What had started as a weapon of war was transforming into something else, a platform for cooperation and advancement. The latest modifications will increase efficiency by 30%, a Cracks engineer announced, her translator conveying genuine excitement. "By combining our understanding of quantum mechanics with human intuitive design approaches, we're pushing boundaries neither of our species could have reached alone." Back in the conference room, the diplomatic talks were proceeding better than anyone had dared hope. The Cracks High Command had officially recognized all former human territories as independent, but more importantly, they had proposed a joint defense initiative. The same vessels that had forced their surrender would now help protect all peaceful species from future threats. "The galaxy is changing," the Cracks ambassador addressed the assembled delegates. "For too long, we believed that technological superiority gave us the right to dominate. The humans have shown us a better way, not just through their technology, but through their willingness to use it for peace rather than conquest." Admiral Lee took his place at the conference table. "The Nova-class ships were built because we had no choice. We were fighting for survival, but now we have a choice, and we choose cooperation over conflict. These ships will patrol our shared borders not as weapons of war, but as symbols of our united commitment to peace." As if in response to his words, the Prometheus's dark energy field pulsed slightly brighter. The alien delegates, once wary of the strange sensation, now seemed to find it comforting. a constant reminder of what could be achieved when different species work together. The construction teams report the second Nova-class ship will be ready for launch next month, the captain mentioned quietly to the admiral. The crack's engineering suggestions have actually improved the crystal matrix stability. And what about the joint research projects? Proceeding better than expected. Turns out, when you get scientists from different species working together, they come up with ideas none of them would have thought of alone. As the sun rose over Earth's horizon, bathing the conference room in golden light that mixed with the blue glow of the ship's energy field, Admiral Lee felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The Prometheus had been built to save humanity through force, but instead it had saved them through inspiration. It had shown the galaxy that true strength didn't come from domination, but from innovation and cooperation. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities that neither humans nor aliens had imagined before. And it all started because humanity, pushed to its absolute limit, had found a way to turn desperation into inspiration and a weapon of war into a bridge between worlds.